Hi, Michelle here. I thought that I would do a little bit of a Halloween themed plant chore video for today. I have a couple of interesting stories I like to share as I repot two of my plants. I have this latifolia outer variegated that is on a little wire hoop, and it's, as you can see, it's not working out well. And I have this vitellinoides that is just kind of running amok all over the place. And it's got this too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repot them, and I'm going to put them in a bigger pot, and I'm going to put a ladder trellis on them. So that's my plans today. But I have, let's see, make sure I have my scissors. But what I'm going to do is I have a couple of Halloween themed stories, things that I grew up with. So I'll kind of keep this a story time repot. So let's get started. The first Hoya I'm going to work with is this latifolia. And boy, as you can see, it looks like it's quite healthy. It's got plenty of roots down the bottom. It's got one that's kind of rotted. So we'll take care of that. But let's go ahead and take this off the trellis. So my first story is, I have three stories. I have a story that is an urban legend from when I was a teenager. So this is like a story from where I grew up. And then I have a supernatural thing I personally experienced. So we'll kind of go ahead and go through all three of those. And I won't make you wait for the best one. I will go ahead and talk about my own personal paranormal experience. And what I'm going to do is, right now, this pot is tight with roots. So I'm going to have to very carefully undo these. I'm probably going to lose all these roots outside the pot. So my first story is from when I was a kid. My cousins lived for a period of time in the basement apartment of an abandoned church. It was a church. I don't know what denomination it was. I know it wasn't Catholic because I grew up Catholic. And it looks like some of these roots may come out with this. They lived for a short time in a basement apartment underneath a church that was not exactly abandoned, but it was torn apart, and it was in renovations, and no one was in it. So what I'm going to do is, this is the root ball, if you can see it. This string is very tied in. I'm going to pull this out, and I took some roots with me, but I'm not going to disturb this. I'm going to just put this straight in. I'm going to put it in this smaller pot. So here's my pond. So, but the thing about this church was, it was abandoned and left in a state of severe disrepair. And one night, my aunt and uncle and my aunt and uncle and my mom and dad went to, they went to go party. And my cousins and I, my two cousins, they were slightly older than me. We were to stay in the house while they went out and to tend to our own devices. And so we were alone, and my cousins say, the church upstairs is haunted. And I'm like, what do you mean haunted? And I am, let's see, maybe 10, 11 at the time. And my cousins were probably 11 and 13 at the time. And they said, yeah, it's haunted. We hear footsteps going back and forth down the aisle for no reason, and there's nobody there. And I just laughed. I said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. There's no such thing as haunted churches, haunted abandoned churches. You guys are just trying to scare me. I'm that's just not gonna work on me. So we had dinner, and we were just kind of doing our own thing. And all of a sudden, we hear this sound. It sounds like footsteps. And I thought, oh, great, my mom and dad are home. No, nobody was home. So I say, well, let's go upstairs and look. And my cousin said, heck no, I'm not going upstairs. It's haunted. Oh. I forgot to put the wick in, so we got to take this all out and do it again. See, I get ahead of myself. Besides that, these weren't sitting very well anyway. So that's that. So we're eating dinner, and we're in the far end of the apartment. And all of a sudden, I hear running, just full speed running. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell? Somebody's in the house. They're gonna get us. And I was scared, and I told my cousin, I said, you got to go upstairs and see who's out there. And my cousin said, no, it's haunted. It's the ghost. And I kept saying, you guys are being ridiculous. There's no such thing as ghosts. And so I said, well, I'm going to go upstairs and look. And my cousin said, nope, you can't do that by yourself. You're going to need someone there with you. So we all go upstairs. And as we go upstairs, we hear running from the far end of the church all the way up to the door where we were getting ready to enter the church. And we stop because it sounded like someone was literally running to meet us. And we stop, and we're scared. And we don't really know what to do. So I said, well, let's just open it and see what is there. And my cousins were like, let's just open it and see what's there. And we're all scared, but, we're just going to do it. So we throw open the door. Oop, I lost something because I got sap. So we throw open the door, and guess what? Nothing. There's nobody in the church. The church has there's pews, and there's wood everywhere, and there's construction equipment everywhere. And so my cousin says, see, I told you there's nothing there. It's haunted. And so I go, okay, I guess it's haunted. So, oh, damn it. I lost a leaf. I knew I knocked something off, and that was a good leaf too. Damn it. Oops, sorry. Don't mean to cuss. So after we heard the sound of footsteps running up to greet us when we went upstairs, that was about it for me. I said, that's it. I want to call my mom and dad, and I don't want to be here anymore. And so this was in the 80s. So there weren't, cell phones. You could just, reach out and call your parents and say, yo, come get me. So we had to kind of find out where they were. I didn't know where they were. My cousin kind of had an idea. So my cousin called his mom and dad and my mom and dad and said, listen, Michelle is freaking out by this whole ghost thing. Hi, video editing Michelle here. It's at this point that I realized the audio quit for the entire rest of the video. I'm going to go ahead and do a voiceover. I know it's not the same as having the original audio with the video, but I hope it's going to be a good substitute. Thanks, and on with the video. Okay, pardon that little interruption. Now that we're doing the voiceover, I'm going to speed things up a little bit. So I'll just be telling the stories rather than talking in detail about the plants, though I'll still be making the occasional planty comment. To get back to the story, my cousins and I were upstairs in the abandoned church area and didn't see anything. There were upended pews, wood boards everywhere, construction supplies strewn about. There was a main aisle that someone could walk down, but it had a thick layer of dust, and there were no footprints in it. My oldest cousin left to call our parents to find out where they were and if they could come home. I wouldn't say that I'm a believer in the supernatural or really anything that I can't see or that isn't proven scientifically. But on that day, when I was a young girl, I had an experience and heard things that I have no explanation for. So that's my only paranormal experience. The next story I have is more urban legend than personal experience. This urban legend originated in the 60s in Kansas, where I grew up, and was told to me on a dark night on a country road in the middle of nowhere. I was hanging out with two of my best girlfriends, and we were with some older boys. We were driving around and hanging out. It was pitch dark, and where I grew up, it's really dark at night. Here's my latifolia outer variegated. I'm fairly happy with the way it turned out, even though I did break 4 leaves. Now it's time for my vitellinoides. Back to the story. We drove down this road and stopped in the middle of nowhere. There were trees on both sides of the car and hiding us from civilization. I hate to interrupt, but that whole bottom is just one solid root mass. I'm really glad I have a 6-inch pot to put this into. The road we stopped on was almost like a Sleepy Hollow type atmosphere, and they began to tell this story to us. There was a girl and her boyfriend driving down a country road exactly like the one we were on, and their car ran out of gas. So the boyfriend said, I'm going to go and walk down the road. There's a house a mile or so away. Stay in the car. Don't leave. Don't unlock the car door for anybody. Don't roll down the window. I'll be back as soon as possible. So she's in the car by herself. It's dark. It's the middle of the night. There's no lights around. She does exactly as she's told. She stays in the car. A few minutes later, she starts hearing this tapping sound, like it was coming from the back of the car. She looks in the rearview mirror and she doesn't see anything. So she kind of shakes it off and goes back to waiting for her boyfriend to return. But she keeps hearing this tapping sound, so she starts to get a little freaked out. After about 2 hours of waiting for her boyfriend to come back and rescue her, there's a sharp rapping sound against her window. She nervously looks up, and it's a sheriff's officer. She rolls down the window in relief, and the sheriff's officer immediately says, You need to exit the vehicle right now. Come with me immediately and do not look behind you. So she says, okay, but that's kind of a weird thing to say. So she gets out of the car and walks towards the patrol car in front of her. But she just can't resist and looks over her shoulder. And that's when she sees him. Her boyfriend is hanging from the tree behind the car. The tapping sound she was hearing was her boyfriend's shoe tapping against the back window. Now, the original University of Kansas version from the 60s had the boyfriend's head impaled on the back antenna of the car. This story usually kind of dovetailed into an urban legend that there was a serial killer living in the area. Now, our area actually did have a serial killer, BTK, in the area, so it wasn't actually a fluke thing. But the circumstances around BTK's killings and where he was located were different. So this story wasn't based upon any specific person. So that is my vitellinoides. I'm glad I got it repotted, even though I had knocked off 4 leaves off of my latifolia. Thank you for joining me today on this special Spooky Repot and Chat. If you enjoyed today's video, I hope you give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see other planty-related content from me, please consider subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And until next time, see you soon. Thanks. Bye.